Hello, LAM students. Welcome to another drama class. I have been watching some of your auditions that you sent in from last week's assignment, and they're awesome. Great job. Wonderful singing. That is a great exercise to help you guys to be able to be prepared to do things in front of a crowd when you're called to do that. And that might be auditioning for a play someday. Or it could be many other things as well. So good job with that. Keep it up. If you haven't sent yours in yet, you can still send it in. I would love to be able to see that. And today we've got a new conversation to talk about. But first, let's open up with a prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this day. Thank you for allowing us to at least still be able to have conversations about things related to drama and speech and music. Help us to be able to use all of these things to honor and glorify you, and help us to still be able to use this time of separation to still grow in our knowledge of these subjects and all of our subjects in school. Lord, we love you and we offer our learning and our time to you. In your name we pray. Amen. Okay, so this week you have a new assignment. Last week's assignment, turn in an audition video, a mock audition video. And as I said, some of you have done that, and that's great. This week, we have an assignment where you are going to become a designer. And I'm going to explain to you in this video what that means. But your assignment is going to be to become either a set, a prop, a costume, or a light designer. You're going to design something. You're going to draw it on a piece of paper. You're going to draw your design. So this is going to call upon your artisticness with a pen or a pencil. And you are going to, and this just goes right along with your art class with Mrs. Chapin and Mrs. Moon. And you're going to design something, and then you're going to send that in to me so I can take a look at it. You're either going to take a picture of that drawing that you did, or if you have the ability, if parents are watching this, you may be able to help with the scanning and emailing, but you're going to have that picture that you send in. Okay? You can, and if you don't want to just draw a picture of your design, you could actually create it. You could make a model of what you're designing and then show the model in a video, like show and tell, or you could just take a picture of it as well. You could also even create a set, prop, costume, or lighting in your bedroom or something, and using things that you have around your room, and then you could take a picture of that or send it in with a video explaining it. Okay, so that's going to be your assignment. It's going to be to design something and send it in to Mr. Connolly. Now, watch the rest of the video here to learn about how you're going to design something. Today's conversation is all about the nuts and bolts of theater. That's what I like to call them. We're going to be talking about sets, we're going to be talking about props, costumes, and lighting. So there are a lot more aspects to theater than most people think. All that is really needed to do a play are actors. Actors, that's you guys. Think about you when you're doing a play here at LAM on the stage. Even when you're singing and dancing in a play, you guys are the actors. That's all that you really need to do a play. You don't even need a stage. You just need the actors and an audience. You need those two things. You need somebody doing the acting and you need somebody watching. And you've got yourself a play. But there's all kinds of other tools we can use to help convey the story, to make it more believable, to help bring out the message of the show, to help bring out the emotions of the show and interpret the meaning of situations. And these tools are the ones that we're going to talk about today. And first we're going to talk about sets. So what are sets? Sets are the thing that help you know the location of the play. They help you know where you are in the play. They're the big things on the stage. So think back to when we had our Christmas play. At the Christmas play, there were on the stage, there are all the risers that you stood on, and there were other different platforms. Those are all set pieces to help us to have different levels and things like that on the stage. But think back to other years when we were maybe at the Kroc Center doing shows. Think about the sets, some sets that we had there. Set pieces are things like a door, a table, a window, a fireplace. You may remember that from one of the Christmas plays that we did a while back. They even include backdrops so you can tell where we are. These are all of the big set pieces, chairs, different things like that. And you put those onto the stage to help the audience know where you are. Some plays just have one set and it looks the same for the whole play. Other plays, the set changes. Like if you think about watching a movie, and at one part of the movie, there are people that are standing in a forest. And then in the next part of the movie, they're in a city. And maybe in the next part of the movie, they're in somebody's house. Those are all different scenes and different settings. So you can do that on the stage as well. You can have something on the stage that makes it look like the actors are in a forest, when really they're just on the stage, but you can make it look like they're in a forest with trees, having sets. Or then you could go to a city where you have buildings that make it look like the characters are in a city. Those are all set pieces. So we could just tell the audience where we are, but it's better to show it if we can, if we have the ability to show it with sets. So the person who's in charge of this usually is called the set designer. And they come up with the design for all the sets. And they work very closely with the director. The director comes up with a vision for the show. Let's say we're doing the lions, the switch, and the warm robes. The director has to think about, and that would be me for this play, has to think about, okay, where are all the places that we are in this play? We are in Babylon, where we have the different kings. So we're in an Old Testament city, a city way back in time. And then we're in a lion's den. There are aspects of things like the fiery furnace and different things like that. So there's all these different set pieces. So I come up with what I think it should all look like. And then I sit down and meet with a set designer. And I tell them, all right, here's what we're thinking. And then it's the set designer's job to be able to try, if they can, to take that and make it become a reality. And they have to get very creative with how they do that. Because sometimes they don't have a lot of resources, like materials to make things. Sometimes they do, it all depends. So usually they're given a budget that they have to work with, and then they make something happen with that, and they build the sets. There's a lot of things that they need to think about. One of the biggest things that they need to think about is the safety of the sets. And they have to decide, all right, these set pieces that we're building, are actors going to be on them, or are they not? If they are going to be on them, I need to make sure that they're sturdy enough so that nobody falls off of them, so it doesn't break when somebody's standing on them. They need to be sturdy. Set designer always has to think about the safety of the sets. They also have to think about the time period of the sets, because a building in the old days, back before Jesus was born in the Old Testament, is going to look a lot different than a building nowadays, because times change the way things look. So they have to think about what time period is this play and how can I make it look like that? Because then when the audience sits down to see a play, they're going to see that and think, wow, it looks like this time. They also need to think about the movability of the sets, if they need to move. Let's say, for instance, that they don't need to move and it's just one set. Then they want to be really sturdy and secure so that they can't accidentally move, like a big wall that people are supposed to be standing on, or the throne the king is supposed to be sitting on. But maybe they are supposed to move because we need to change from one scene to another. Then they need to be easily able to move quickly. So they put things like wheels on the set pieces. Like maybe the throne has wheels, and it can be wheeled onto the stage quickly and then wheeled away fast. They also have to think about the storage on the sides of the stage. Where are things going to be put? If they make a whole bunch of big giant sets and then there's nowhere to put them, then that becomes a problem. They also have to think about how big are the doors to get into the building. Can they fit the sets through those doors? If not, maybe they need to build them within the building. That's actually, for the lions, the switch, and the wardrobes, we were going to build a kind of a miniature castle sort of thing on the stage. And the way we decided to build it, myself and the set designers, there was actually kind of two set designers for this play. And we thought about, okay, it's too big to get in the doors of this sanctuary here, so we'll bring the wood in, all of the lumber, and we'll build it right here on the stage. Okay, so those are some of the things that set designers need to think about, and those are the sets. Remember, the sets are the big things on the stage. Props, that's our next topic. Props are the small things on the stage that the actors use with their hands. Props are things like cups, bowls, spoons, knives, forks, a guitar, maybe a spear, a whip. Those are some things that we see, or maybe a book, or a lantern. All of these little things that you would use in a play with your hands, those are the props. Okay? And a prop designer has to do the same things that a set designer does. They have to make sure that the props are sturdy enough that they're not going to break on the stage. They have to make sure that they are in the correct time period. They have to make sure that there's enough of them for all of the actors. And they work with the director on that. The next thing we're going to talk about are costumes. Now, costumes are, of course, very important to a play. And they help us, again, to know the time period. And they can also really help the actors to get into character. If you need to act like a king in the Old Testament, like, let's say, King Nebuchadnezzar, it's easier to act like a king when you're wearing a kingly outfit and a crown than otherwise. It helps actors to get into their character. And of course, getting into character is a very important thing. So things that a costume designer needs to think about is like movability of the actors. How much do the actors need to move in these outfits? Do they need to dance around a lot? If so, they need to make sure that they're flexible outfits. Of course, they need to think about, will they fit the actors, and they alter the costumes to fit that. They think about the time period of the show, and they think about how would this character look. Let's take, for instance, that you're going to have, let's say, a pirate versus a prince. Two different characters, different costumes. Obviously, those would be costumed very differently. So they think about what costume pieces could we put on a pirate to make him look like a pirate? What costume pieces could we put on a prince to make him look like a prince? And that's where they think about things like a cape, a sword, princely boots, a crown, and for the pirate, maybe a pirate black bandana and a vest and a tie around their waist and a different type of sword, although the sword is actually a prop. And maybe their old raggedy shoes, right? So they think about, what is this character and how can I make them look like that with their costume? Sometimes costumes are more extensive and elaborate than other ones, and sometimes they're not. Now, one thing that the set, prop, and costume designer all need to do is they need to make sure that they have all of their stuff done well before the show is ready to happen, because a lot of times last minute things need to be fixed and or changed. So they want to make sure that they have the time at the end there to be able to do that. The last thing we're going to talk about today are lights and how important lights are to telling the story of a play. Without lights, we would have to do all plays just by the light of the sun, because we wouldn't be able to see otherwise. But because we have lights, we have the ability to do it in a dark theater and use the lights to be able to see. And you can use the lights to change the mood of the play. You can use it to change between scenes. So you have the lights up, you do a scene, you need to switch to a new scene, you do a blackout, which means all the lights go off for a few seconds, and the set is changed, and then the lights come back up, and you have a new scene. It can also help the audience to know when the play is starting. This is a very common use of lights. The theater is lit, the play is about to start, the lights dim. That tells the audience the play is about to start, and then they come back up at intermission or at the end of the play or whatever. Now, lights can be good for telling the mood of the play. So you take a scene, for instance, and you have different colors that you can use for that. You have happy colors, you have more sad colors, you have maybe scary colors. So common ones are like using red for the bad guy. Whenever the villain of the show comes on, you might have red lighting to help the audience realize that that's the bad character of the play, the bad guy. And then you might have yellow and brighter light for the good guys. You might have blue and or green or purple for like a spooky scene or a scary scene, like you're going into a scary forest or something. Blue, like a kind of a darker blue lighting, is good for showing that it's evening or nighttime. And then of course a brighter yellow light to show that it's daytime. Because we can't, in a theater, we can't always know when it's supposed to be day or night on the show, during the play, so you use the lights to be able to help show that, okay? And there's lots of different lights. So many theaters, like this one here that I'm sitting in, have what's called a catwalk, which is where the lights are all hung up above. And I'm looking at the lights right now, and they're shining on me. They're up on the catwalk. And you can turn all these different lights on. You can light different parts of the stage, and you can light them at different times too. And in a theater with a light programmer and a light designer, the lights can be designed to come up at different parts of the stage at different times, to light up different characters. You can have use of a spotlight to really, really draw the audience's attention to a certain person at a certain time. So that's lights, and how you can use those to help to change or to help tell the story of a play. So let's talk now again about what your assignment then for this week is. I want you to try to become a designer, a simple designer. And I want you to think about a scene. It could be any scene. Could be a scene in a forest. Could be a scene in a castle. Could be a scene on a pirate ship. It could be a scene in Disneyland. Could be a scene in a church. Could be a scene in the grocery store. You're going to think of a scene. A scene is kind of like where somebody would be, like a place, a location. And you're going to, it could be a scene from a movie too, or from a play, if you know plays. Create a scene, and you're going to draw that scene. And using what we learned today in this class, you're going to use that knowledge to fill up your drawing with different notes that explain how you would design that scene. And then I'm going to take a look at that, and I'll give you some feedback on how you did. So I'm going to give you an example. The example that I'm going to give is we're going to do the scene of a pirate ship. What I might draw on a piece of paper is an ocean with a ship and some pirates on it, and maybe a sun in the sky. And then I would write things on that drawing, little notes. And I would say things like this. Explain them. The sun would be cut out of cardboard, painted yellow, and hung from a wire from the ceiling. The water would be cut also out of cardboard, painted blue, and it would be placed on the front of the stage with some wood behind it to keep it up and support it. The ship would be built out of wood, and it would have wheels on the bottom, so it could be rolled on and rolled off. The wheel would be able to turn, so it looks like somebody is steering it, and it's built strong enough for people to be able to stand on it. You would explain these types of things. Now, what I've talked about now is all sets, and then you could talk about the props with all of your little writing. So you're drawing on your piece of paper, right? You've got your piece of paper, and you've got your drawing all over it. It's filled up with all these little notes. And you'll probably have to, some of you in your younger grades will have to see if you can maybe get your mom and your dad to help with this, to fill it up with notes. And then you would say, have props on there. And you draw a little arrow to prop sword, a prop anchor, a prop rope, and would show what the props are. You could then talk about the costumes and the lights. What I don't want you to have to do is talk about all of them if you don't want to, because that can be kind of a lot. I want you to pick 2 of them to focus on. If you want to do all 4, go ahead. But focus on 2 of them. Think about, okay, I want it to explain the sets and the props. Or I want to explain the props and the costumes in my scene design. Or I want to explain the lighting when I want to explain the sets. Something like that. Pick 2. If you were explaining the lighting, you might say things like, there's yellow light shining on the sun to make it look yellow. There's blue light shining down in the water to make it look like water. And there's some red light shining right on Captain Hook, standing on the pirate ship, so that we know he's the bad guy. And then there's a yellow spotlight on Peter Pan, standing here, because he's the good guy. So you would explain that. You're going to pick sets, props, costumes, or lighting, 2 of those, and explain how you use those in your scene. Feel free, of course, to ask me if you have any questions, specific questions about this. This is an assignment for 1st grade and up, the actual turning in of the homework. Kindergarten and below, you're more than welcome to watch the video and learn about these things, but I don't expect you to have to turn in an assignment like this. Well, there you have it. I'm excited to see your designs, your play designs, the scene of a play or a movie or something. Come up with a scene, draw it on a piece of paper, draw it on a big poster board if you have one, if you want to get more creative. Build a little model if you want. You could even set up a scene in your bedroom if you wanted to, and then take a picture of it and explain how you made that scene out of the things that you have at home. This isn't an assignment that's about going out and buying things. It's about being creative. If you needed to create the scene of a play, how would you do it? That's today's drama class. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. Have a great rest of your day.